Chapter 5, Mishnah 1. The first Mishnah of this chapter defines what is biblically forbidden interest and what is rabbinically forbidden interest. The Mishnah calls the biblically forbidden interest on a loan neshech, bite, and the rabbinically forbidden interest tarbis, increase. The Mishnah gives examples of each type of interest. What type of interest is neshech, which is forbidden by biblical law, and what type of interest is tarbis, which is forbidden by rabbinic law? The Mishnah answers, what is a case of neshech? Someone who lends a selah, a coin worth 4 dinars, for 5 dinars, that is, on condition that the borrower will pay him 5 dinars in return, or he lends 2 se'ah of wheat for 3 se'ah. Both of these arrangements are biblically forbidden and are called neshech, bite, because the lender takes a bite out of the borrower's funds by taking from him more than he gave. And what is a case of tarbis? Someone who increases his wealth by way of buying produce and receiving more value than he paid for. If this is done in a way that resembles a loan, it is forbidden by rabbinic law. How so? The Mishnah's illustration involves a complex transaction made up of 2 separate agreements. The first agreement. For example, someone bought wheat from another person at a price of a gold dinar equal to 25 silver dinars for a core, 30 se'ah of wheat. And that was the established price in the market. The buyer paid for the wheat in advance, with the understanding that the seller would give him the wheat during the course of the year as needed. This was permissible because wheat at this price is readily available in the market. In the meantime, the price of wheat increased, and it stands at 30 silver dinars per core. Even so, if the buyer were to take delivery of the wheat now, there would be no problem of interest, because he is viewed as having taken possession of the wheat from the time he paid for it. Thus, it was his wheat that went up in value. However, now that the price of wheat has gone up, the buyer decides that he wants to sell the wheat and buy something else. This leads to a second agreement, which is problematic. The buyer now sells to the seller, "Give me my wheat, because I want to sell it and buy wine with the money I get for it." The seller says to the buyer, "Instead of taking the wheat and selling it to buy wine, let your wheat that I owe you be considered a debt of 30 dinars upon me, and you will now have a right to receive from me wine worth the amount I now owe you for the wheat." However, the seller does not have any wine right now. He is also not receiving any new money from the buyer with which to buy wine. Therefore, even if wine is available in the market at an established price, the seller cannot be considered to have wine in his possession. Since the seller does not have wine, the buyer cannot be viewed as acquiring wine from him at this time. Thus, if the price of wine goes up between the time they make the new agreement and the time the wine is delivered, the buyer will be receiving from the seller something that is worth more than what he was owed. The arrangement is therefore rabbinically forbidden.